about Flux, about the Indigenous Innovation Initiative and the program, confirm eligibility and those kinds of questions. And if you have anything extra you want to ask, there's a few ways you can ask. One is through the group chat. You can either directly message the Indigenous Innovation Initiative and it will go through to Layla, who's the only other one I see on video right now. Or you can send a message out to the whole group, or as you might see in the chat already, there's also a link to SurveyMonkey if you would rather submit your question anonymously. And then Layla is monitoring those and will ask me those questions and I'll try my best to answer them. Do we have any questions that have already come in, Layla?
Hi, Sarah. We don't have any questions. Someone submitted a technical issue with Flux and I've messaged them here privately. So they can send me an email and I can forward it to the technical support. That's the only question that we've received. So let us know if you have any questions and you can either, like Sarah mentioned, you can pop them on the chat box or you can submit anonymously on SurveyMonkey and I'll be checking that.
In the meantime, folks are encouraged to tell us where you're coming from. If you want to type into the chat box just what part of the country you're coming from. We're super curious to know where people are calling in from.
We got a question.
Hello.
Hi. Oh, Gail says she's from Montreal and she sent it privately, but I'm guessing that was meant to be shared with everyone. And Claire is asking, she said, I'm interested to know about project timelines and when can projects start?
Yeah. So what our plan is to do is to have the projects selected and notifications to have gone out in early October at the latest is our goal. But there is a due diligence process and some orientation process to getting your agreements signed, to setting up our monitoring and evaluation processes, to making sure that the financial systems are in place and that you understand the eligibility requirements and those kinds of pieces. We need to go through a process. We also do background checks to make sure that there are no liens against your organization, no histories of fraud, corruption, that your business is actually legally registered still. You might have a business number, so it might have been registered at one point, but we need to make sure it's still registered and active, that there's no criminal suits, that kind of stuff, that due diligence stuff. We are anticipating to go through that process through the fall, October and November. And once those processes are all completed, then we can start flowing funding. And so if your organization is really set up and has a lot of those things in place or has been through some of those processes before, then it should be actually quite easy to get you through that process and then we can start funding. If you're a relatively new business, then that may take longer to set up. If you've never been an entrepreneur before and you're just learning how to set up, say, a financial system for your accounting and bookkeeping purposes, then that due diligence process might take a bit longer, if that makes sense. Our goal is to have everyone flow funding by January 2021 is our goal. But it's going to be up to who are the successful applicants and how set up are they already. Now, you don't have to be set up. That's not what we're looking for either in this stage or just generally. We're looking to support the development and testing of great ideas. And so you can be a new business or you can be a long-established business. That's irrespective. And we'll support you wherever you're at in whatever stage you're at to get through. Does that answer your question, Claire? Okay, good to hear.
I just wanted to let everyone know that if anyone needs technical assistance, I have given you in the chat box. I pasted the website where you can go and request that, and I will write my email as well, so you can copy me since this is very last minute, so I can make sure that you do get the timely assistance that you need.
If there is anyone that hasn't registered on Flux yet, we have, I think, less than 24 hours now until the expression of interest need to be submitted. There is unfortunately no ability for us to extend deadlines at this stage. And so our deadline is firm. If you haven't registered in Flux already, we do say that it might take up to 72 hours. And that's largely because it takes a physical person to confirm and process it. And so that person is now working today and tomorrow. And so hopefully that process will only take, a few hours, half a day at the most. We can't promise anything, but if you haven't already registered, there may still be time, and we're trying to push through those registrations urgently. And if you message the Flux support line, then we can try and bump those up in the queue if they are specifically for this initiative, so that we can try and meet those timelines. All right, so where do we have people coming from? I'm gonna have a quick peek while we're waiting for more questions. Treaty 4, Ani, Treaty 4, Saskatchewan. Someone originally from Labrador, living in Ottawa. Someone originally from Montreal, living in Toronto. We are a very mobile group of people, aren't we? All right, Claire has another question. Since we don't have any other questions, I'm happy to have a gander at that one. Thoughts about scaling. So ultimately, the Indigenous Innovation Initiative is based, and we're being incubated by Grand Challenges Canada. So this is our first Indigenous program being launched at Grand Challenges, but their whole program, their whole process is to develop and test ideas. So seed funding to develop and test ideas, and then transition to scale funds so that we can scale them. And so we don't have a pot of funds for the scaling part yet. We are still working on that. People are super interested in us getting the seed funding part launched. And so that's the stage that we're at, but we are working towards trying to get that transition to scale funding in place. The idea is we're trying to build a succession of innovation, Indigenous innovation that can move its way into the economy and into that larger ecosystem. So that is the goal. We don't have anything quite yet, though.
And the second question is, what does successful seed outcome look like?
So this is to develop and test ideas. You do not have to be successful. So if your idea doesn't work for whatever reason, that I don't care about, because it means we're not taking a challenge. We're not taking risks at getting those bold, really good ideas, but they might not work. There's a lot of reasons why things don't work. Sometimes it's systemic issues. We're hearing a lot about systemic barriers and challenges, right? Sometimes it's operational issues. Sometimes it's the team and the person that's leading it. Sometimes it's just the economy or the market. There's lots of reasons things don't work. We're looking to develop and test ideas that have the potential to be really impactful. And so if your idea fails, then that's okay. What does success look like? Means that you have developed and tested your unique Indigenous innovation. Now, ideally, we have some that succeed and are really great and really impactful, and we can help them transition to scale. We don't want anyone to fail in theory, but that's not the main focus of our intentions. And so this is like different than like saying getting a bank loan where you have to pay it back, so you have to succeed. And they have a whole framework for measuring risk and monitoring risk, and you can't get a loan if the risk is too high that you won't pay them back. This is a grant. We're not looking for it to get paid back. We're looking for really bold ideas that have the potential to be impactful. And that's what we're investing in. I see some smiles.
And innovation. Sorry, I was just going to add that for innovation investing, that proving that something doesn't work is a success as well, right? Because you want to know if that idea will work here or it will work somewhere else. And knowing that it won't work is also a success.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Leila. That's totally true. That sometimes just that understanding that, you know, from what we learn about about failure is just as valuable, and sometimes even it's more valuable. I have a private message. I'm just going to have a peek at it so I see if I can summarize it. Okay, so someone's asking about multiple projects and multiple innovation ideas. So how do I frame this? So you can submit multiple proposals. So one organization can submit multiple proposals. You just have to have a different lead for each one. Again, each project has to meet the requirements. We won't be linking projects. So if you keep them as separate proposals, they're not being linked together. So if you are expecting that information from one proposal is going to be obviously connected to another one, it won't be obvious because there might be different people reviewing them entirely. You can submit them as a package. If it's within that larger limit of up to $250,000. In terms of which one you want to put forward, again, the evaluation metrics are really around, is it innovative and is it relevant? And you've heard me probably say this before. And so looking at those evaluation criteria questions and which ones do you think are going to get measured against which project, or how you frame it, how it gets measured against, is it innovative and is it relevant, is probably what you want to focus on more than which one should I put forward. You can message me if I answered your question, and if not, then if you could try to rephrase it, then I can try and answer it a different way.
Jason also has a question, and thank you, Jason, for your support on Twitter, by the way. And he's asking if he has a Flux account for another application, if he can use the same account to access this application.
Yes, you can. You only have to register once, and then you can apply for any of the different grants if you're eligible for them. The big challenge with all of the other grants for GCC is that they are for implementation in low and middle income resource settings or in conflict settings. And so that's what mostly has made the Indigenous innovation not fundable by Grand Challenges Canada before, until there's this pot of funding. But if you have an idea that could be scaled to another jurisdiction, you have partners there, then that could be a potential other source of innovation funding. We have had a few people connect with us over the last year about, because they're part of the Grand Challenges Network, with really quite interesting ideas that they have developed and tested in low and middle income resource settings in other jurisdictions. And they have started to develop local partners, local Indigenous partners who want to adapt it for working within an Indigenous context. And so I suspect that there are going to be quite a few that are doing that as well. But yes, once you've registered in Flux, you have your registration. You never have to register again. Okay. I'm being told that my my response to the private question was answered. Also echo Layla's thanks to you, Jason, for supporting us on Twitter. There's been so many people who have supported us on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and other social media pieces. And we're super grateful to all of you for getting the word out. We're a relatively new platform, and we're like new in this whole landscape of Indigenous organizations and services. And so we feel like we've gone a long way from being a relative unknown to lots of people hearing about us. So miigwech for all of you who supported us and for everyone else who supported us in getting the word out. And again, keep in mind, this is a 6-year initiative. So if you're not funded in this round, there's another round coming up. We're going to be launching, goal is late 2020 to launch round 2. And we're hoping to have even more supports and structures in place to support people through this process. We're learning in this process, this round 1. And so subsequent rounds we're going to launch will be adapted to, based on what we hear back from the people who've been through round 1 process and what we learned from round 1 process. But there is another round coming up in not too long from now. We're trying to learn quickly from what we're doing, and ultimately hoping to have at least 3 to 4 rounds over the 6 years, probably having even 4 to 5 rounds, depending on how the funding comes in.
Jason has a comment, and I'm not sure, Sarah, if you can answer. A question for Flux support. He said that he just tried logging into Flux, but it didn't work, and he believes that his account may not be the same jurisdiction versus your campaigns may be subject to only Canadian accounts. And I do have a follow-up question, Jason. Is this Flux account for Grand Challenges or for the Indigenous Innovation Initiative, or is it for another program, perhaps? Okay. NDN Collective. Yeah, so then you do have to register for Indigenous Innovation Initiative. So I would invite you to that as soon as you're done with the call, and to send a message. I will repost the link for Flux support, so you can send them a message and say, hey, please help me. It's for the I3 program.
Yes, they are using the same software as us. There's actually multiple grant redistribution organizations that use this software. There's only so many different kinds of software that are available for organizations to do this kind of work. And if you are a successful applicant, you get even more integrated with Flux, because we do a lot of our monitoring and evaluation and tracking and reporting stuff all through Flux. Your whole journey gets mapped on it.
And your comment, Jason, on including the name or including Labrador on the name of the province, that's noted, and I'll reach out mentioning that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yes.
I got a private question, Sarah. Someone that's in the call submitted privately, and they say if an Indigenous female-led business is for profit and would like to support and work with female Indigenous artists and designers for mentorship and experience purposes in collaborative design, how would we address the non-commercial activities aspect when the purpose of our business is to generate profits to go back into the community? And I'll just say before Sarah answers, Sarah went into, I'll send everyone the replay of this session, and also the first session we had, Sarah went into detail about explaining the difference between profit and revenue and non-commercial activities.
Yeah. So yes, there's the difference between revenue and profit. It doesn't mean, so you can still generate revenue from this. Any profit has to be reinvested into the work of this initiative during the project phase. This is not about the rest of your operations. And so if your business is a for-profit business and generating a profit successfully in other lines or other products, then that's great. That's awesome. This is to develop and test an innovation. And so during the project phase, it's to develop and test. It's not to generate profit from the grant. I hope that answers your question. There's a lot more detail in the webinar, correct? Is when I mostly focused on that. But yes, once we're past the project implementation phase, right? So once you've developed and tested it, if you want to run with it independently, you're not subject to any of our rules and conditions that are being imposed by our funders.
Yeah, and yeah, you can watch. I will send a link as well, and you can also like for-profit businesses are eligible, and it's not supposed
They are
to be.
eligible.
Yes, they are. That's sorry, and we understand that a lot of these projects are intended to generate a profit in the future. Like we do understand that. And there's a follow-up question from the same person. Could we manufacture a limited amount of products for the testing phase or during the testing phase?
I believe so. Yeah.
And
Again, during this phase, I just want to, whoever is submitting this question, those are a lot of like very specific detailed questions that you're asking about. So yes, my suspect, like I feel like yes, you could manufacture a specific amount for that testing phase. We're looking right now in this expression of interest phase is to really focus on, is it innovative and is it relevant? Now, if this is Indigenous women entrepreneurs, then the eligibility and relevance feels like it's going to flow in pretty easily and pretty naturally, but really focus on the innovation part as well, because that's what you're being scored on in this phase, not the details and the logistics. But yes, I hope that answers your question. In terms of the flux, we are going to try our very best to get everyone processed as efficiently as possible. It takes a physical person to be processing them. So register, and then that person will process them and get you confirmed. So it can get turned around relatively quickly, but we are doing them in order. And so it might take some time if there's a whole queue of them. And we do expect that a large bulk of the applications are going to come in this last 24 hours. Now,
and if you're just registering now, again, in the chat, you can find the link for Flux support, because you can send them a message letting them know that you want to apply to this program so they can do their best to review it fast.
Yeah. Layla, do you know where the 3 questions are listed? Are they directly listed in the RFP?
I believe so. I will verify that right now, but I was just going to say that I invite you to answer them on a Word document while you're getting approved, and then paste them. I believe they're here. I will look and let you guys know exactly where, in what section. Okay. It's on section 3 of the RFP PDF. On step 1, you can find the questions.
And it's basically three questions, right? So a quick summary, 2 lines. Like there's not a lot of character. Like the character limit is small, because each application is getting reviewed by 3 people, and we didn't know how many we were going to get, but we have a limited number of reviewers. But also, like, we're looking for the hearing about those ideas. We didn't want this to be a huge, massive, onerous job, right? If we gave you a 20-page limit, some people can pump out 20 pages really fast and easily, but how much is that really giving us to tell if this is innovative and if it's relevant? We just needed a couple of pages to be able to determine that. And so that's the focus on for this stage. We have community reviewers who are looking at it. So it's not like, I don't know what your chances of success are, because I'm not sure what the community is going to decide. But you have all of the information that they have. They have the RFP. They're going to have those same questions in the evaluation section for this step. around is it innovative and is it relevant? And that's what they're going to be scoring against and submitting back to us. And we'll average out those scores, and then we'll be looking for up to 40 of the top applicants from the expression of interest phase or step to put forward to submit a full application.
We have a couple more questions here in the chat. Can you recap supporting materials that can accompany the application?
Go for it, Layla. It's in front of you. If you do you still have the RFP open?
Yes. Oops.
I could probably also try and pull it up so it's handy.
Found it. Applicants may decide to submit photos, videos, or attachments to complement their expression of interest. This could be, and it's the last portion of the RFP if you want to review it, and I just posted the link. A Word document, PowerPoint presentation, MP3 audio file, or link to a YouTube video, and they all have limits on size, of course, because we don't want the reviewers to be watching 1-hour documentaries.
We can't. I mean, you can't expect that the community reviewers are going to be able to watch that much. And so we just, to make it fair to everyone, including the reviewers, any supplementary documents are really, there's a limit. So you can tell us which section, like if you have an hour-long piece, you can tell us which section to watch. And that's the section that we'll trim down and send.
We have another question submitted privately. Can they go over by a certain number of characters on the question, or is it a solid number of characters?
There's a solid number of characters that you are allowed to submit, and you will get cut off, I believe. You'll either not be, I'm not sure if it's you're not allowed to submit if you're over the limit, or if it actually just stops putting them in.
And we have another question. For creating the Flux account, should it be Indigenous led or should it be others?
It's up to you who is going to be actually. I mean, I'm most interested in who's actually leading the project and not putting somebody in just because you think that's going to make it more successful, but who's actually leading the project. We are looking for Indigenous innovations, so ideas that are developed and ideas that are developed by Indigenous peoples and for Indigenous peoples, but we also recognize there's lots of really great ideas and people have a meaningful partnership with an Indigenous community to implement that idea in an Indigenous context. And so that's also eligible. And that innovation is how it's being adapted for that community specific piece. The Flux account needs to be an eligible organization, and the list is, again, you can do the test to see if you are eligible. Basically, we can't fund individuals. Anyone else who's got a legally registered business in Canada, whether you're a for-profit, a not-for-profit, a registered B Corp, or a certified B Corp, whether you are a limited liability partnership, a registered sole proprietor, you can be a band office, you can be a kind of a university or academic or research institute. There's like lots of eligibility as long as you're legally registered in Canada. just cannot fund individuals.
If you have any other questions, again, you can put them here in the chat box and I will post the link to submit anonymously as well. Okay, we have a question here. Jason says, my idea is to create multiple Indigenous owned and operated e-commerce online marketplaces where Indigenous entrepreneurs can open a business front and sell all around the world. For example, first prototype, if you will, is going to be an Inuit artwork marketplace to help maximize Inuit artists' profits and make up for loss of face-to-face sales channels due to COVID. After this, make an Indigenous shopping website in the same fashion. Keep data sovereignty too. This is the kind of idea for submitting.
Yeah, that sounds like an innovative idea that's, you know, going to be COVID resilient and advancing COVID resilience for our communities as well. I would challenge you to make sure that you look at how it's addressing gender equality, and that it aligns with the Indigenous community's needs. But yep, that's an innovation that would be eligible to be submitted.
There's a question that's regarding Flux. So if you don't know the answer, I will message Flux support to see if we can get it. Claire has a video that's approximately 6 minutes and she doesn't have the ability to trim it to 4. And she says, did I understand that we can upload it and you will trim?
So I don't know, is there ability in the Flex system, Layla, to make a comment about which section to watch?
I don't know, so I'll message Eric.
Yeah, like I think if you don't give us instruction, then we will watch the first, how long do we say we will watch? 5 minutes? 4 minutes? I can't remember what you just said because I was thinking of something else.
Mm-hmm.
We'll watch that first kind of section until the time limit is up. If you give us instructions to say watch from this point to this point, then that's what we'll do, and we'll try to trim it, but largely we'll probably just give the instructions to the reviewers themselves to do.
So I have asked to let you know when we get an answer, because it is a video, a YouTube link. If we don't get the answer on time, I would just think that, like, look for a place where you can give that instruction. Like maybe you can use characters of other questions to, or in any details to say where to watch it, because this one is a YouTube link. So I don't think that this would have an ability to, if it's more than 4 minutes, to not upload. And Jason mentioned that there are many online editors and apps. So maybe, Jason, you can post, if you don't mind, if you can post some ideas of easy ones so they can consider. I do understand there might be some other limitations, but maybe you can post some ideas if I understand you're an expert in that topic.
We are trying to make this easy though. So we're going to try and figure out a way for you to just tell us watch from this time point to this time point, without it using up your character limits. We know that we've given you a limited number. So if you don't have to, and we'll try and address that.
I'm still waiting for Eric, who helps us with Flux, to reply. So I will let you know as soon as I hear from him, but we have another question. Crazy question, but for the PowerPoint. We use a different app that does its own thing with font size. 10 slides is okay, but not sure about the 20-point font. You can't control the font size, Claire? That's interesting.
Is it Google Slides? I'm not sure what the platform is. And so don't know it. All right, Claire, we're gonna have to get advice on that one. I mean, you can understand the idea is that we don't want people adding like another 10 pages of like, 10-point font for us to review and read. So if it's like a basic slide deck that you predict is about 20 points, then probably we'll be okay. We'll look into that and see if we can figure out if we can support you to get it converted to PowerPoint, but we do need to kind of make sure that it's not too excessive.
I also I will ask Flux support because I fear that if it's a different extension file that you won't be able to submit it. That's different from the PPT, like .ppt PowerPoint. But I can ask them about that. I just think that it would be preferable to stick to those formats just in case. I don't want you to have any issues. And I do have a response regarding video. He said that we can't edit their videos, but you can tell us what part of the video to watch. There will be a field when you click submit where you can include a note, and please specify there what portion to watch.
Okay. So that sounds like that one's easy. If you could also ask him about this other platform. Mm-hmm. From Claire, who's kind of stumped us today. Well done, Claire. We haven't been stumped on these calls yet, so.
Yeah, you're too modern. I will let you know what Eric says regarding using that, but I do fear that, unfortunately, that it will look at the file extension.
Yeah, we might need to put it into a PDF if it's going to be that huge a file.
Oh yeah, that's another option if you don't want to use PowerPoint. Does it have a converter to PDF? Because that would be better.
And then can we tell if there are 20 fonts on that?
Yeah. So our Flux support has to look into it because he's not familiar. So I would discourage using that then, just in case.
In case we can't open it and look at it.
Jason has another question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to share the update from Claire. She says PDF is fine. So then that's great. We solved that one. And Jason is asking, is this funding available for projects with multiple partners, one lead, but multiple stakeholders?
Yeah. So we're not looking for who your partners are at this point, but yes, you can have multiple partners and supporters and stakeholders involved. You have to have one business, one eligible business or organization who's the registered organization, and one project lead. And then if you're invited to the full application phase, then you can expand more on who the team and stakeholders and supporters of the and different partners are. For the part about the implementation team, we'll be looking for more information about that. So that's where that will become relevant. But that's not in this phase right now. Is it innovative and is it relevant? Again, we're looking to support Indigenous innovation, the development and testing of it. Doesn't have to be an established business and like already kind of tested and, you know, ready to go. Like, this is to develop and test ideas, right? Do you have a really great idea that you want to bring to fruition, and see if it will actually work? That's what this pot of funds is for.
And Jason says he has another project with other partners, and I will read you the full question, but I just wanted to say that a reminder that if you apply for different projects, you have to have different leads. And he says that his other project is the upstart of an Indigenous entrepreneurship and e-commerce academy to give free education to anyone seeking. And it has multiple partners expressing interest already.
Super interesting.
Mm-hmm. It also sounds innovative and relevant.
Well, you got to get the gender piece in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But
Make sure
multiple partners.
it applies that gender lens, that it advances our equality from that gender lens. And that's great. If you have already got multiple partners expressing interest already, that's really wonderful. But that's not the part we're looking for. Sounds like a really interesting idea, but making sure that you speak about, is it innovative? How innovative is it? How relevant is it? I'm gonna keep saying it. How innovative, how relevant. I sometimes dream about it.
Are your dreams innovative and relevant is the question.
I don't think my dreams are that innovative these days, but I dream about the mantra.
And he says that it covers gender, and he wants to help Inuit women disrupt them from selling artwork.
So I'm just gonna challenge you, Jason. This is not specifically to give you a critique of this, but really making sure that you speak to how it's advancing equality, and not just, is it available for women or, you know, Two-Spirit plus folks. The idea is that we want to advance equality. And so do you have targets? Is there, you know, priority given to those kinds of pieces will become a much more relevant in that kind of assessment of the relevance piece. Is not just anyone can access it. We know that when there's programs that are available for Indigenous folks, that it's more likely that men access those programs and services and women get left behind for lots of different reasons. A lot of them are systemic. And so this is really an initiative. It's funded by WAGE, Women and Gender Equality at the federal government, is our primary funder for this. And so they really wanted to impress that we need to be advancing gender equality through this initiative. So you don't have to be an Indigenous woman or gender diverse person to be the lead. We are prioritizing those individuals as leads, but that you do not have to be, because we also know that, you know, there's lots of ways that we can advance equality. But that has to be the focus. That makes it relevant.
And
I'm sorry, Claire. Yes, I know, I can imagine.
yeah.
But I have sat through 40 slide pitch decks before. That's a lot of information you stop processing after a certain point. So focus on the slides that are going to speak to how it's innovative and how it's relevant, if that's going to help you. So just focus on those pieces.
And you will have an opportunity to offer more information on that for anyone that's invited to for the full application.
So I recently took my dog's walls away. She had a bit of an addiction, and we've been trying to reset some ground rules. She's still a young puppy. She's only 2.5. And she's like, you know, one of those terrible terriers that are super hard and very feisty and spirited, like my 11-year-old daughter. Anyway, she's in Wichita. It's 2 days now, and she's at the cupboard whining quietly to tell me that she's really, really trying to be polite and good, and she wants her balls. She's not getting them. Sorry if you can hear whining in the background. That's what that is.
I put my cats in a closed room because they're not very. One of them is not very quiet.
She's now at my feet, looking sadly at the floor in defeat. I'm really excited to see the projects. I have not looked at any of the projects that have come in so far because I'm going to dive into them once they're all in and submitted, and I can just start looking and reading them over because I am really curious, because I've been hearing about such great ideas for the last year. People have been telling me their ideas, and I've been hearing about ideas, and I've been like talking to people and going, do you know that what you're doing is innovative? Do you know you're an innovator? And so I'm super curious to see all of the great ideas that come in, and it's going to be heartbreaking to know that such a small number of them are going to only be funded through, but we're really, I promise that we are really trying to see what kind of programs, services we can put in place to support people to be more successful in subsequent rounds, and to also better be able to fundraise. Like, we're still really working on the fundraising piece as well, so we can have more funds that go into this program, and we can get more dollars out into community to do these things, because there are so many great ideas. So if you don't get funded, please don't be discouraged. Please keep, you know, in touch with us, because we hope to be, you know, using those kind of the themes from those ideas that come in as well, to be like, so we got these great ones that funded, but we have all these other ones that are waiting in the wings, just dying for an opportunity. There's not enough opportunities for community to do this work.
Oh, we have another question by Claire. Out of curiosity, I3 was mentioned to us by CMHC.
You mean Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation?
Oh, thank you. Do you anticipate doing any capital funding projects?
Certainly not with this pot of funds. I mean, it's 250,000 maximum, right? It's not really enough to do it. They have a Indigenous innovation housing initiative out there that is, I think, looking at those kinds of things. There was some early kind of interaction between I3 and that initiative. You might notice that it's called the Indigenous Housing Innovation Initiative. But we're not actively involved in that. So no, we don't have anything specific in terms of capital funding at this time. We are right now, this is our first iteration, but this is a great platform. There's clearly a lot of interest. And so we eventually hope, like we're trying to get proof of concept, right? So the government is invested in us to get the proof of concept that this can work. And then we really suspect that a lot of other players will come on board to see this as a part of the economic development spectrum. There's a lot of players in Indigenous economic development, but what's that succession of ideas that's coming in to build those new businesses, and how do we support at that stage, that really early seed and pre-seed stage, to get those ideas up to the point where they can access the economic development funds that are available, like the loans, the grants, and the venture capitals, and those pieces. So hopefully once we get our proof of concept, then more people will start investing in us.
People that have joined late. So I posted again the link to submit anonymously, and also you can submit them in the chat box. And Claire has like a follow-up comment. they have funding through IHII, but applying for an initiative that would tie the program level to the program level.
Yeah, so there was some, like I said, there was some like early collaboration, and then we're not connected at all right now. Someone else is just asking me about where the funding is from. So currently the funding for the Indigenous Innovation Initiative has come from historically from largely the McConnell Foundation, who was funding us to incubate at Grand Challenges Canada for the last few years. And so they've been one of our kind of anchor funders. We don't have any current funding right now. We have a closed account and we have an application in. Hopefully we'll be having an ongoing relationship with McConnell Foundation. We've had some other funding for Indigenous mental health from the Royal Bank and from Johnson & Johnson. But for this particular gender equality program, we are funded right now only by the Department of Women and Gender Equality from the federal government, but it's a $10 million match contribution agreement. So what that means is that I have to fundraise another 10 million to get a full $20 million initiative launched over the 6 years. But all of this fund right now that's going to be going out there is from the federal government. We have some private industry, some private individuals who are philanthropists, and some foundations who've expressed interest in supporting us. People are largely, the individuals who are managing those funds are really want to see what comes in. They're interested, but because we haven't actually got any innovators yet, we haven't got any projects to demonstrate the potential of this initiative, they're kind of still holding their cards close to their chest. And then when COVID hit, I think that people are becoming more cautious and are giving their money to other initiatives right now. But this is actually part of we see this as part of COVID recovery, and an important part of COVID recovery. There's a lot of people right now who are not working but have those really great ideas, and they're eating into their savings because their incomes have dropped and because of COVID. And so us being able to invest in them right now to develop and test those ideas as the economy is recovering, we'll be better positioned to have a more active role in the Canadian economy at large. That's how we see our positioning as part of the COVID recovery strategy.
We don't have any other questions. Let us know if there's anything else we can help you with before we sign off.
Our team is working to be as available as we can. We'll probably extend our hours a little bit this evening and be back online first thing tomorrow morning to support the last minute submissions. We are quite accustomed to having a large volume of submissions come in at the last minute. So our Flux program, software platform, whatever you want to call it, I feel like it will be able to accommodate quite easily. When they use this platform in the global program, they've gotten as many as up to 600 applications in total. I don't think we're going to have that many. Or even close to that many. And so if they're able to manage it for application sizes, like application numbers that large, then I think we'll be more than fine. All right, I'm starting to ramble at this point with 2 minutes left. Thank you all for joining, and thank you for the questions, and thanks for stumping us there. I think we had 2 stump questions today and had to get support on.
We found the answers for all of them, so that's great.
That's fine, which is great. I'm really excited to see what comes in and all the great ideas that come through, and wish every one of you best of luck. I wish we could fund you all.
Thank you, everyone, and best of luck.